Good morning, good evening, everyone. Super happy to be here. So I tried to do a live stream on the same subject about 2 weeks ago, but I got feedback about how my stream was interrupted quite a bit because of internet issues. I'm not sure it's because we were having some typhoons here in Taiwan, but I'm here today to review what we talked about and basically share everything about Copaiba. We're having to explain to customs why there is a suspicious looking tree resin in our suitcase. Yes, tonight we're talking about Copaiba essential oil. Thank you. I'm seeing some questions here. I will answer everyone at the end of the stream. Okay, and we might be able to answer some of the questions during the stream as we continue. I think Copaiba is one of the most fascinating and frankly one of the most underappreciated essential oils in the wellness world. It's not a plant that is that commonly known or commonly heard of, but it has properties that are quite similar to some other more popular terms we've heard of, which is why I want to go over this very special essential oil today. Lavender usually gets all the attention in the essential oils world, and peppermint walks into the room and immediately wakes everyone up. Frankincense has been cultivating its mysterious ancient healer reputation for thousands of years. And then there is Copaiba. So Copaiba is a quiet one. A lot of people that are into CBD products, I encourage you to listen on because there are properties in Copaiba that actually helps you to solve some of the problems that we seek from using CBD products. So Copaiba doesn't quite shout as a plant, it just gets the job done quietly. So today I would love to share with you all the history, some of the chemistry, the aroma of Copaiba essential oil, and especially focusing on physical wellness applications, emotional and energetic qualities, skincare potential, which is one of my favorites and one of the first reasons I even started using Copaiba, and one of its most fascinating scientific characteristics, which is Copaiba's relationship with the CB2 receptor, and that relates to CBD. So let's start with the plant itself. What you're seeing behind me here, yes, is the Copaiba tree, and it lives in the Amazon forest. Okay, it comes from trees in the Copaifera genus. It belongs to the lagoon family, Fabaceae. So numerous Copaiba species throughout Central and South America, with Brazil being particularly rich in this biodiversity. So these trees, they produce a very remarkable substance called an oleoresin. And this is important because Copaiba isn't simply another essential oil made from leaves. The tree stores in the oleoresin within its trunk. Okay, so this essential oil actually comes from the resins of the tree trunk. And this is why the essential oil itself is a lot more, it's thicker in terms of viscosity compared to something like peppermint, for example. So traditionally, people have harvested the resin by making a controlled opening into the tree trunk and then collecting the oleoresin and then allowing the tree to continue growing. So it's very, I love it as well because it's very sustainable. It doesn't, we are not chopping down the whole tree. We're allowing the tree to continue to thrive and grow. And for centuries, indigenous people and traditional practitioners throughout Amazonian regions have valued Copaiba oleoresin for a variety of applications, including skin and inflammatory complaints. And historical use is very extensive, although traditional use should not automatically be interpreted as proof of clinical efficacy, okay? So if you actually show symptoms that Copaiba might be able to help to treat, I always recommend people to first still go see a doctor, okay? Before you start, always get a medical opinion first before you start using more natural remedies on your own. So this gives us something very extraordinarily interesting when it comes to the steam distillation of the oleoresin. This is how the essential oil comes about. We're taking a substance that evolved as part of a tree's own biological defense and basically chemical ecology, and we're studying its individual molecules in the context of human biology. So this is where the story gets very interesting. So before we get into the receptors and molecular biology, which relates to CBD, and this is why I am encouraging a lot of people to use Copaiba or Copaiba essential oil over CBD products. It also focusing on the toxins that are in various different products, right? When we're using them, in addition to efficacy and effectiveness, I think it's super important for us to realize that we're living in a very toxic environment, as much as we don't consciously want to recognize that and remind ourselves of that every day. It is very important from integrative medicine perspective to continuously detox, okay, and minimize toxins that we're absorbing from the environment, which inevitably we're absorbing on a daily basis just through breathing. So let's talk about something much more pleasurable first, which is the smell. So because Copaiba has a very beautiful aroma, I would describe it as warm, very woody, a little bit balsamic smell. It's a little bit sweet, and it's very soft and smooth. Sometimes people think it's a little bit, it's subtly spicy. Personally, I don't usually smell that, but everybody's scent receptors are a little bit different, so you might feel that a little bit. But even if it is, it's very, very subtle. Okay, so imagine walking through a rainforest after rainfall, and you smell the wet bark, warm tree resin, soft earth, a little sweetness, and something very creamy underneath. That is the feeling of Copaiba. It's very soft. It's not as sharp as peppermint. It's not as dry as cedar wood and a lot of other kind of wood. It's very beautiful, rounded, and it's a silky quality. So in terms of scent, it's actually really good to combine it with things like floral oils like lavender, rose, ylang-ylang, jasmine, or neroli. With wood oils, Copaiba is really great with sandalwood and things like frankincense and arbor vitae. You can also mix it with citrus oils. So citrus oils, they are wild orange or bergamot, lemon, grapefruit. They're all really great with Copaiba. Or sometimes people like to mix it with herb and fresh oils like rosemary, like basil, and marjoram and peppermint. Okay. So in terms of chemistry, let's talk about chemistry. One of the most important compounds found in many of the Copaiba oil is the β-caryophyllene. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting when it comes to CBD products, and why I encourage people to use CBD products, to use Copaiba products over CBD. This chemical is a sesking terpene found throughout the plant kingdom, including Copaiba species, black pepper, cloves, rosemary, oregano, and other aromatic plants. So the concentration varies sustainably by species and source. So I would not give the universal percentage and pretend every bottle is chemically identical, but Copaiba essential oil can have dramatically different chemical profiles. And this molecule, β-caryophyllene, is particularly interesting because researchers discover that this chemical can selectively activate the CB2 cannabinoid receptor. And this is when we talk about cannabinoid receptors, this is why a lot of people enjoy using CBD products. Okay, so now we'll talk about cannabis, but don't panic. We're going to talk about receptors, okay, not getting high. So we're going to look at the distinction between CB1 versus CB2. There's a very important distinction. So your body has an endocannabinoid system, or in medical terms, they call this ECS. So it is a physiological signaling system involved in regulating processes, including immune activity, inflammation, stress response, pain signal, and neurological function. So two major cannabinoid receptors are CB1 and CB2. CB1 receptors are so when THC interacts strongly with CB1 receptors, it can alter neurotransmission and produce the psychoactive effects associated with cannabis. Okay, that's the high. That's altered perception. And this is why THC can affect things such as memory, coordination, and reaction time. Okay, and this is why a lot of people love CBD products. Okay, because there are CB1 and CB2 receptors in CBD products. So CB2, okay, CB2 does not get you high like THC. CB2 receptors are much more strongly associated with peripheral tissues and immune system biology. So they're found in immune cells and are also relevant to tissues, including our skin and the gastrointestinal system. So I love Copaiba, as we've talked about so far, in terms of skincare qualities. If you use Copaiba essential oil, if you just add a little bit of it, excuse me. If you add a little bit of Copaiba essential oil to your skincare, it acts like second skin. Okay? So this is the distinction that matters enormously because β-caryophyllene behaves very differently from THC. And this is why when some people use CBD products, even though they feel a relaxation initially, which is the CB2 acting as a relaxant, okay, and then it's getting it relates the immune cells in skin and our digestive tracts. People are also feeling the CB1, which is what we talked about earlier. CB1 receptors affects our central nervous system and the brain. So because β-caryophyllene behaves very differently from THC, research has demonstrated that β-caryophyllene is a selective CBD agonist. So with very little meaningful CB1 activity, this is why it does not produce this classic THC cannabis effects associated with CB1 activation. And this is why Copaiba is a much cleaner and more consistently low toxin choice compared to CBD products, okay? And this is basically an elegant way to explain how THC is famous for activating CB1 receptors in our nervous system and producing psychoactive effects, while β-caryophyllene is famous for selectively activating our CB2 receptors without producing that psychoactive effect. So Copaiba is very, very much focused on CB2 and not CB1. So when people ask me, like, why do I not use CBD products anymore? Like, why do I use Copaiba or wintergreen, these other natural plants, over CBD? A big reason is also because of the regulation that goes into the production of CBD products, because from all the years, more than 10 years of me working in various different skincare / pharmaceutical brands and industries, their CBD is all the hype, but as I've researched and experienced a lot of products myself, a lot of CBD products, the way that they're manufactured hasn't convinced me in terms of trusting this product to be sustainably effective for me, and also minimal in terms of toxins that are going to my system. So I want something that are actually helping me to really relax without affecting me on a psychological side, okay? So it is not correct to say that Copaiba CB2 is superior to THC CB1, okay? They're not competing versions of the same thing, but they're very different. They're two different receptors. Distinction is precisely what makes. So going back to, so this is the CB1, CB2. This is why I love Copaiba. When I apply Copaiba on myself, I apply it down my nervous system and on the bottom of my feet. Okay, bottom of my feet, a lot of it relates to TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. This is why a lot of people love reflexology, because on the bottom of our feet, we are these awesome bases that we have are connected to various different important organs across our system. Okay, so whenever you're applying natural plants or natural medicines, I always recommend people, you can consider putting them on the bottom of your feet. Okay, it's a very quick way for these benefits to be absorbed and travel to the rest of your bodies, okay, without using a ton of these products. So this is why I love Copaiba. But then on the skincare side, okay, I love Copaiba for skincare. I've worked many years with and for various brands, from brands with Target, and Walmart, all the way to Estee Lauder companies and L'Oreal. All of the different brands, including Tom Ford, Clinique, La Mer, I would say 80% of the skincare brands and beauty brands I have interacted with at some point in my previous career. And out of all of these different products, the one big reason that I love Copaiba is because of the change in weathers these days, right? And a lot of times we're still selecting products based on whether or not you have oily skin or you have dry skin. But Copaiba basically doesn't matter what type of skin you have or what type of climate you're in. Whenever you just put a drop of these essential oil with any of your skincare products, it basically acts like a second skin, like second layer. So Copaiba has traditionally been valued for skin applications for this reason. And modern research is investigating this β-caryophyllene and Copaiba derived preparations for topical use, right? So research has demonstrated that this chemical can penetrate and be retained within the skin tissues. And formulation can influence how effectively it moves into the skin, of course. But from all the different creams and powders that have skin color, like skin shade in them, when I add a drop of Copaiba and mix with these makeup, then I apply it to my skin, it acts like a second skin and lives on my body for the entire day. Doesn't matter if I'm sweating or if I'm in the desert going to a conference in Las Vegas, or if I'm going to somewhere really cold in Canada, in Montreal. You know, when you add Copaiba to the skincare product, it actually really enhances that makeup in terms of how it sits on your skin and how it travels with you and lives with you throughout the day. Okay, so think about your skin as a very sophisticated biological barrier. It's not just a piece of wrapping paper around your body. Your skin is an active interface between you and the environment. So when we talk about beautiful skin, we're not talking only about hydration. We're talking about barrier function, moisture retention, comfort, and resilience. So Copaiba can be a very beautiful component of a properly formulated skincare routine because of its aromatic and emollient qualities and the biological activity being investigated in its constituents, okay? And so this is where we get into something very fun. Have you ever put on foundation and thought, why does my face look like I put foundation on my skin? Exactly. The goal of beautiful makeup is often the opposite. We want skin that looks like skin, just with a little bit more perfection, right? So that beautiful, very expensive looking, almost imperceptible finish, that's what I call the second skin effect. And we're very much into it, increasingly around the world. In Asia in particular, people were always very obsessed with this. So now to be scientifically precise, Copaiba is not literally creating a second layer of skin, and it is not technically a makeup primer, but when a properly diluted amount of Copaiba essential oil is incorporated into a facial oil, a moisturizer, or any kind of cosmetic formulation that you want to put on your skin, it can contribute to a smoother, more comfortable skin surface. So that's fully integrated with your skin. So think of it as you're prepping the canvas, right? And then once you add Copaiba to your skincare routine, it acts like a support to the barrier when you apply makeup, and it let the skin to remain luminous, like you're a star. So it's actually, I always think it's super interesting as we learn more about plants and not just the final product. So Copaiba essential oil comes in a bottle, but the oil itself extracted from the tree behind me, right? It's from the tree bark. So as how tree barks are protecting the stem of the tree, these resins, these Copaiba essential oils, also acts like a barrier and protection to our skin when we apply its oil on our skin. Okay, so it's all parallel. Once you know, it's all connected, right? I always talk about, people are like, why are citrus essential oils or citrus flowers and fruits make us so happy? Well, because these fruits needs a lot of sunlight to thrive. So they are absorbing a ton of sunshine and vitamin D. And this is why citrus fruits and flowers and essential oils, when we smell them, when we eat them, it makes us happier because it has all of that natural sunlight absorbed. So we're quite literally just eating sunlight or smelling sunlight. And that's what makes us happy. It's all natural chemicals. That's gifts of earth. So please remember, essential oils are highly concentrated. So if you're using on your face, I always ask for people in the beginning to use some sort of carrier oil like fractionated coconut oil or jojoba oil or there are so many, avocado. Some people use avocado. There's various different emollient oils. Almond oil could be good, but I always ask people to use fractionated carrier oil. Some people are asking about carrier oils. Yes, if you want to use oils, try not to use only food grade. A lot of food grade oils, when we apply it on our skin, they're usually not micro enough. That's why a lot of people, if they're just using whatever they're cooking with in terms of coconut oil and putting it on their skin, it's much easier to create clogs in your skin, and it clogs the pores, right? Because the atomic structure is much bigger. So you want something that's fractionated, that's been filtered, usually at least 3 times. Those are also edible, but usually we wouldn't use those for eating, right? Those are usually devised and specially manufactured really to be applied with things like essential oils that's very concentrated to larger surface area. So yes, I do use Copaiba. Someone's asking, do you use Copaiba? How do I use it for my skincare routine? Foundation. I add a drop of Copaiba in my foundation, and I literally just mix it. Even if it's a little bit of powder, what I will do is I add a drop of Copaiba, I mix it with 1 to 2 drops or 1 to 3 drops of coconut oil. Sometimes I apply all around my neck and my face. I let it sit for 2 minutes, and then I apply any kind of powdered makeup. If it's foundation, I will mix a drop directly with however much of foundation I want to apply, okay? But I usually recommend, if you're used to adding a lot of foundation, try to tone down the foundation amount. Maybe if you usually add, 2 to 3 squirts of it, start with 1 to 2 when you're using it with something like Copaiba essential oil. I really think essential oils goes a long way when you mix it with cosmetics. You don't need to use as much cosmetics, but it makes your skin actually look really nice. Sometimes, and I don't use, no, I do not buy over the counter or anything in the stores in terms of makeup remover. I always just use fractionated coconut oil, and then I'll add different types of essential oils depending on how I'm feeling that day, right? So I do this in the morning when I first wake up and before I go to bed at night in terms of skincare regimen. I love lavender in the evening. Sometimes I add Copaiba if I feel like, okay, I have more blemishes or maybe I have more breakouts coming up. A lot of times if you're feeling like you have breakouts, instead of just using tea tree, many different types of tree essential oils are actually super amazing for acne. Again, it's the concept of a lot of tree oils, they're extracted from like these tree barks, right? They're resins from a little part of a tree trunk. So as these tree trunks and the layers underneath are protecting the tree, when you get these essential oils from the trees, these similar tree trunk oils are also protecting your skin, right? So a lot of times, instead of using chemical heavy products that might be drying up your acne, what I love using is cedar wood. Copaiba is great as well. If you're feeling like you have a blemish coming up or you feel like something's already clogging inside, just dabbing it a little bit a few times a day, you can help it go away in like 3 to 4 days. Okay, so last but not least, emotional and energetic wellness when it comes to Copaiba essential oil. I love talking about this part. Copaiba's aroma is deeply grounding because, again, it comes from a tree. So for me, it has a quality of everything is going to be okay. We don't have to solve everything tonight. That kind of feeling, okay? Sometimes that's exactly the message our nervous system really needs. In aromatherapy practice, Copaiba can be incorporated into very calming, grounding meditation blends. So you might combine it with lavender or frankincense for a very peaceful evening atmosphere. You can apply on your skin first and smell it, or you can add a few drops of these into your diffuser. I love Copaiba with things like wild orange and bergamot or lemon or lime for something warmer and emotionally uplifting, especially if you're adding something to your regimen, to your routine for the morning, okay? But it's important to remind people when you're adding any kind of citrus oils on your skin, especially lemon, try not to go under the sun 12 hours, within the 12 hours. If you do, please add sunscreen. If you do this repetitively and adding citrus oil before you go outside and hit the sun, it's easier to get dark spots and sunspots on your face. And Copaiba with sandalwood and ylang ylang is great for a very luxurious grounding aroma. So the energetic language, grounding, emotional safety, energetic centering is part of traditional and contemporary aromatherapy practice rather than something that is focused on clinical, psychological endpoint, okay? So, in terms of routines, I briefly mentioned it earlier. In the morning, I like to diffuse Copaiba with wild orange and frankincense for a very warm, very bright and grounded effect. Before or after exercise, you can use an appropriate diluted topical blend for massage. You can combine Copaiba with oils such as peppermint or frankincense or wintergreen, marjoram, okay? Depending on what smell you're looking for, but if you want to be able to work out longer or have less soreness after, these are a few great choices. In the evening, it's great to diffuse Copaiba with lavender or simply use that fractionated coconut oil and use that as a maker. With essential oil, precision is luxury, so always use just 1 to 2 drops, no more than that. So what have we learned tonight? Copaiba is much more than a pleasant smelling essential oil. It's connected to an extraordinary Amazonian botanical tradition. Its chemistry is fascinating to researchers studying the CB2 receptor and the endocannabinoid